We are back with another episode of Behind the Sign podcast. What's up, Ryan?
What's up, Justin?
How are we doing today?
We're doing great. It's a little cooler than last time.
It is a little cooler. I'm digging the change.
Me too.
Yeah.
Fall is upon us.
The fall is upon us. We're here with a special guest today, Bill Whiteside from Horsham Township Council. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing well.
Good. Glad you can make it out and sit down with us today. This is a special conversation. We're going to be getting into almost everything Horsham, what's going on locally, what the community members need to know about redevelopment of the air station, Will Grove Air Station, and just what's happening locally here.
Well, I thank you for inviting me out today, and I hope we can clear up any confusion or misconception and get some more information out to people.
Yeah, that's what this is about. Just so you're aware, Ryan and I have been doing this podcast now for a handful of months. Our primary goal is to bring the right information to the public about what's happening locally in our communities, not just Horsham, but Ryan's in Upper Dublin. We focus our real estate businesses primarily in Montgomery County, and as Ryan will tell you in a second, it's our mission to bring people the right information in a positive way. So,
yeah, absolutely. You know, last time we talked about some development that's popping up in Ambler or proposed. But you know, to get us kicked off, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your position, and how. Just give us a general overview of you.
Well, that's a tough one. Well, I've lived in Horsham for about 49 years. I have been on Horsham Council. This is my 26th year. And I really like our town. If we look around, I'm really pleased that I could be part of a team that got us to where we are today.
Yeah.
So,
how many years have you served?
This is my 26th year, so it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot in 26 years.
I think so. Like I said, it's a great town. We continually try to find ways to make improvements. We look for to expand our open space, our parks, our trails, and people tend to want to come here to use those facilities, so I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, Horsham does have a really great open space program. The park system here is really fantastic, and you have the Horsham Valley or the Power Line Trail, which is amazing. And then I don't even know how many parks in total we have.
We have got 800 plus acres of open space, and my goal has been to try to hit 1,000 before I'm done on council.
That's amazing. How many acres of open space did you have when you started on council 26 years ago?
I'm going to say roughly half, but
Okay.
Remember, this was an area of farms and things like that, so it's kind of hard to quantify that.
Sure.
But to be able to preserve that much, I think, is saying something.
I agree.
So I think you're right. Horsham has a lot to offer from an open space. The parks, the trails, the offshoots that you can get here. We're actually filming this today in the municipal parking lot, which right behind us, there's a trailhead that can get to the soccer fields. There's pickleball courts. So Horsham has a ton of amenities. But the big ticket item that we're discussing today is obviously the redevelopment of the Will Grove Air Station. I think there has been a lot of information that's been put out, some by major news networks that misrepresent what's happening locally here in our town, and it's our mission to bring to the local public exactly what is happening. And so you're a big proponent of open space. You're a big proponent of bringing facts to the table, and nobody better than yourself to kind of give us some information as to what's happening with that air base.
Well,
today.
I'll do my best to answer your questions, and hopefully we can clear up any confusion that may be out there.
Yeah. So what's the big picture vision from your perspective? What does Horsham gain the most from redeveloping the former Willow Grove Air Force Base, and give us maybe the opposite side of that? Like, what do they potentially lose in that?
Well, we kind of have to look at this in two pieces, because there's the development of the overall base,
Yeah.
and that's got all the good stuff. But because the EPA and DEP and the federal government and us locally are still dealing with issues and how the government will continue to be responsible for some of the contamination that is there. I mean, there's definitely contamination, but it's not like people think. It's not a toxic waste dump. It's under control, and each item can be managed. And one of the issues is the PFAS that is on the larger portion of the base, and how the government will continue to be responsible for that. So we're still working through that. What we've looked at recently is a smaller piece. We're going to get 118 acres of clean property, no contamination, no PFAS, and we're going to be able to work with that. So as we get into this a little further, we can touch on that and how it works.
Yeah, that's.
But overall, long term, again, with no timeline on the long term, we're going to get jobs, which means tax revenue. We're going to get, we've got the lowest or among the lowest of any township around when it comes to taxes. And that revenue comes from jobs in town.
Yeah.
And when we don't have those jobs, the only alternative is to raise taxes.
Sure.
And our goal has always been not to raise taxes.
Yeah.
Actually, I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but since I've been here in the last 25 years, we've raised taxes, I believe, 3 times. 2 of it has been in the last 5 years because ever since COVID, people are working from home. The business parks are a little light right now. They haven't come back yet.
Yeah.
So we've lost some of that revenue.
Yeah.
And
I don't think people realize that there's income generated when people go back to work in facilities.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
People
correct.
think I've always worked from home. I've always had the luxury of working from home. I love the freedom that it gives to me. And so those that have essentially left their place of work and gone to work from home, I don't think the general public knows that there is revenue that's generated from people actually occupying facilities.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that's important to us. We believe that over time it will come back. So we have to be careful with that as well. But we need to continue to plan for, all right, how do we fill in the gap until it does? How do we replace it with other things so that the alternative is not to raise taxes?
Yeah.
The other reason, and I started to mention, the second time we had to raise taxes was because in years in the past, we had a huge volunteer fire company, as everyone else did. Now there's hardly any volunteers. You have to pay people to be in a fire company, and it costs money.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 reasons that we've had to raise taxes over the last couple of years, and our goal is to do everything we can not to continue that pattern.
Yeah, I think that's huge because we have some townships like, surrounding townships. Upper Dublin is one of the most expensive from a tax rate perspective.
Yeah.
You could find a property here in Horsham. You could find that same property in Upper Dublin. You might be paying 1.5 times the tax rate on the same comparable property.
Oh yeah, if you look at
Yeah.
a chart, the
Yeah.
differences are significant.
Yeah. And Ryan knows that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I pay it. So, but no, and it's funny because we are in a area where you have some neighboring municipalities that do vary pretty greatly, and it's not so much the municipal tax; it's obviously a burden to the taxpayers. Typically, the school tax, right? Like that's usually the highest impact on our tax bills, right? The municipal and the county tax are relatively low across the board around here, but the school district taxes are the ones that really drive high ones, like mine.
And people do get confused about which is which and what's what.
Yep.
I can only speak to the municipal taxes.
100%.
And we do our best to keep ours as low as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the economic impact to redeveloping that 118 acres? You know, we talk about a potential reuse plan that could potentially bring thousands of jobs, right, to the area. How realistic is it to develop that 118, and what are some of the things that we're looking at in doing?
Well, there's a number of things. Some of that acreage is for easements along 611, and a little bit on the tip of Horsham Road. And the reason those are important is because we're in the middle of putting together a plan to improve the 611 corridor, to widen the road, to just try to ease the traffic congestion
Making it safer.
So some of that property goes towards that. The biggest piece of the property, we are in the process of putting out an RFP. We're looking for a large company to bring their headquarters to Horsham. So that will be a clean, pleasant development for the site. And it should be very desirable to a company that wants to change locations or wants to come here, and it should bring a significant number of those jobs we're looking for and the revenue from that.
Do we have an idea, or has it been spoken about, like, how many jobs we're looking to create, or is...
Well, the overall site is intended to create roughly 7,000. We probably should go back to the beginning of the BRAC process. The way that works is the federal government has got a process. It's got regulations that you have to follow when a military base is closed and they're looking at disposing of the property. You have to have, they figure out how many jobs the property represented when they were there, and they make you replace at least that many. They make you then have a series of community meetings to come up with a plan that says, all right, what could fit on this site? You know, everybody would love to have an 800-acre park. Well, the federal government doesn't allow that. So you have to go through the process. And at the beginning of this thing, we spent probably 1.5 to 2 years with community meetings and things called charrettes, where we came up with ideas. We got community input. Eventually, we came up with the plan that you see on our website, and that's kind of what you have to stick to. And some of those things came from the input at the meetings, but very often some of the things like the town center and things like that comes from, we do every so many years, we do a township planning, not a meeting. It takes a whole year to run through the plan.
Right.
We update our plans.
Right.
Well, we solicit people with that, and that's one of
Is
the
that
main
the general
things.
public?
The general public, yep. I'd have to go back and look at ours. We had like 4 meetings last year while we worked on our updated plan. We had the items, the information out there so that we
Sure.
could get the input, and we also send out a. This year we did it on the internet as well as mailing it, but we send out a survey that says, what do you want? And there's lots of things to check off, places to write in what you want. So the things in that plan came from community input.
Mm-hmm. So you're potentially bringing a larger company to potentially headquarter there on that property.
That's our hope. That's our
hope.
goal.
Yeah, that's the hope and that's the goal. From new housing potentially coming in, one of the things that we see that brings congestion to the area, I'm excited that you're potentially working on widening 611 and making it safer for travel purposes. Like, that's a huge thing. I think the community, again, doesn't really pick up on, right? That road is so heavily trafficked and congested. The installation of the light right at Hollowell, that was a huge project that I think has alleviated traffic flow and made it safer for families and people commuting back and forth. But from a general housing perspective, is there any plans or any potential preparing for more development there as well, or?
Not on that lower end.
Okay.
We're not looking at any residential down on that lower end there.
Okay. Good to know.
But you see the things we are doing. We're doing
Yeah.
Limekiln Pike and Horsham Road. We're going to be widening Horsham Road pretty soon to complete, the full width all the way up to the end of the township.
Yeah.
I mentioned 611. That's been in planning for quite a long time. We've been talking about, geez, we have to do it. Well, we are currently working with our engineers to come up with an actual plan to get started on doing something about 611 to improve traffic there.
Yeah.
And 611, I'm assuming, is not just Horsham Township, right? Is that PennDOT involved in that one too?
Yeah, everybody's involved.
Everybody's.
And part of the problem today, and it's my pet peeve, the lights aren't synchronized correctly, and that's part of the problem.
Yep.
And we've been through that in the 25 years I've been here, probably 3 times, and had PennDOT go through that and work with those lights. And sometimes they get better, sometimes they don't. I still think that the lights are a big part of that, particularly the light at County Line and 611.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a bit of a log jam down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I think that's a lot of accidents happening there. It's a tough intersection.
There's a lot of stuff coming and going.
Yeah.
And the timing on the light just doesn't feel like it works.
Yeah. From a transparency perspective, there was recently an article that was put out by 6ABC, and I think it improperly highlighted what is actually going on locally here in the township. So for the people that will wind up listening to this and watching this, what is it that they need to know? Let's clear up any misconception from that article that basically stepped on all of the good work that the council members have been putting in with involving the community in the development and the talks around that 118 acres.
Well, I think the thing that bothers me the most about the Channel 6 presentation is they sat here while we walked through what the documents are that we agreed to, what we signed, and something actually that we kind of passed over. We're getting that 118 acres. But along with that, there's a secondary agreement called an REA, and that agreement gives us the legal authority to build roads across the base, whether we own the property or not. We have to work with the Navy, we have to show them the plans, but they will give us the easements, and we will have the legal authority to build roads. As soon as, not as soon as, we've already got the basic engineering in place to extend Norristown Road from where it ends now at Horsham Road to 611. We have purchased property at the corner of Norristown and Horsham to implement intersection improvements there. And, now we're out looking for some grant money that we expect to get from a congressional grant, possibly as early as next year, to build that road. That gives us the authority. We'll own that property because it's right along the edge of what we're getting. But it gives us the authority to build more roads across the base, put in utilities if we think it's appropriate. That's a big deal. That's at least as important as the 118 acres that we're going to get.
Yeah.
That is a huge deal because we all know, what it's like trying to get from one side to the other, and you have to drive all the way around.
You have to drive all the way around to get where you're going. This should make it much easier to get where you're going.
Absolutely.
So,
which should also alleviate some
it
pressure on the roadways.
won't eliminate any cars,
no,
but it will eliminate congestion.
Yep.
It will ease congestion.
Yeah.
So we're anxious to get started on that as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. So thank you for highlighting that because I didn't even know that. So that's a huge thing that the public should know about that's coming.
But the other thing that bothers me about the Channel 6 report is after they sat and listened to the whole meeting and the acreage we were going to get and the discussions about this REA that allows us to build roads, they ran out, and within 1 hour of the meeting, they had people on TV complaining about the PFAS water problem. They had some guy that they interviewed that said, oh, you can't go to a restaurant in Horsham and drink the water. Those things are not true. They are absolutely false. There is a PFAS issue, but when that came about in 2014, Greg Nesbitt and I led the initiative to plan and execute the solution to that problem. We spent close to $20 million. We put filters. There's 2 filters on every public well. There's a primary one, and when it begins to leak through, the second one catches it, and then you do the maintenance and you change it out. So our contamination is at non-detect levels coming out the other end that goes into the system. So the comments that you can't drink the water are flatly untrue, and they hurt the township.
Yeah.
They hurt the township big time because people only believe what they see on the news.
Sure.
Correct.
And that's very, very frustrating. And
I think we live in the world where the clickbait is what everybody is after.
Well,
and
I wondered how they did it within an hour of the meeting. And the more I thought about it, I can't prove it. This is strictly my own personal opinion, but I believe they ran old footage. So that made it that much worse.
talking in real time today, you need to know that Horsham has, if not the best or safest drinking water in the area. Is that safe to say?
When we put in our wells and,
Yeah.
and initially resolved the issue, we had the cleanest water in the country of any community with this issue. And people were calling us, asking us how we did it, how we did our filters, and what we were doing. Now, I'm sure many of them have caught up now, so I think I'd be a little bold saying we have the cleanest water in the country, but we're at the very top of clean water when it comes to this issue.
And that's a great thing for everybody involved.
And another thing, I said we spent $20 million.
Yeah.
We got some of that money through grants. We also got reimbursement from the Navy. We initially had, the Water Authority had to charge a surcharge because we were still collecting funds, but we didn't want to wait. We wanted to solve the problem as quickly as possible. But since that was done, we have accumulated the money and returned all the surcharge fees. So that $20 million was spent at no cost to Horsham residents.
And that's beautiful. That's the last thing that I think people, they're always counting their dollars at the end of the day to see what's coming out of their pocket. So it's a good thing to know that money has been returned back to the community. How do you combat, the negative publicity that the air base gets? And I think it's not just Channel 6 News. It's pretty much rampant.
Yeah.
It's been rampant all over, for the past handful of years. But from our perspective and your perspective, with all the work that the council has done, all of the digging for facts and the conversations between the government and the Navy and what have you, what is it that the public needs to know?
Well, part of the problem is it's a great story. So when people hear it, they just believe what anybody says. I think the most important thing that I could say on that topic is look around town. We do our best to make things safe, to make things good for people, and it would be silly to think that we would do anything different on redevelopment of the base. So every aspect of it will be addressed, so it's safe and appropriate.
It's good. How about from like a potential community amenity standpoint? Is there anything outside of potentially bringing, a larger company to headquarters here? Is there anything else that we could potentially look at with that acreage that maybe benefit the community a little bit?
Well, a big part of it, there's 200 plus acres of open space slated for that property, and we're talking about trails, parks, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are the amenities. There's property designated for the school district. There is proposed at least a hotel and conference center so that, if we're trying to cater to a business community, there's a place where people can come and do those things. There's a recreation center listed in there. So there's a number of those types of amenities.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, the government has regulations about how you have to create your plan and kind of stick to it. So that plan is the benchmark. It's going to be like any other development in town, though. When the time comes, it may not be 100% what the plan says. You just have to be relatively close and change for a good idea. We can't start over next week and come up with a new plan.
Yeah.
They would never allow that, and that would probably set us back 20 years.
Yeah, I think that's the years is the other question. I think I know this story has gained momentum recently, right? And I think one of the questions a lot of people have is, what is the proposed timeline of when we should see development starting and see proposed changes that are taking place? Like, are we looking for this to begin within the next year, or is this still like a 5 to 10 year plan?
Well, again, two pieces.
Yep.
You've got the larger piece of the base, the 600 and some acres. There is no timeline on that.
Sure.
That's still where everything has been all along. We're still wrestling with the Navy, DEP, EPA on how to handle the issues and what types of agreements to make to move forward. That's why getting this 118 acres was a big deal, because we're going to get the RFP out this year.
Cool.
We're going to do our best to get the roads underway within the next year or two. So hopefully we get some responses to our RFP, and the actual transfer of the property is expected within 12 to 18 months. If we've already got responses, it's as quick as development can begin.
Sure.
So it should be some activity within the relatively near future on what we've got our hands on.
Very cool.
Love that.
Yeah.
People of the community, residents of the community, not just developers or officials or what have you, how can they continue to have a say or potentially voice their concerns or what have you? What's the process look like for them?
Well, the one thing they can do is, you've commented a couple of times that the township or the township council, and those things are all true, but the main player in this particular process is the HLRA. Okay, because again, the BRAC process, the regulations say we need to have this authority, and all of the communication between the township and the feds go through this HLRA. So we used to have monthly meetings, but because things have been so slow, we have quarterly meetings. People can come to that. They can find out what's happening. As some of these things like roadways start to get on paper, they can have input to those things by attending meetings and paying attention to the website. I believe there's something on there where you can get reminders too, so you can get notifications and things. So it's all about coming to the meetings and paying attention to the website.
It's awesome.
I think that's one thing that is generally also a challenge, is a lot of people have opinions, but they also don't take the time to come to the meetings, to go and read the meeting minutes if they couldn't make it, to understand what's actually happened, and they just form general opinions of what they hear or what they read on certain news articles. And I think for most of us, to be able to stay informed takes a lot of time and effort, but if you want to have an educated opinion on these topics, you have to put in the time.
Well, it definitely takes time to stay informed. And to add on to what you said earlier, people don't come to meetings until they're mad about something, and then they only come and complain, as opposed to coming to learn, find out what's going on, and provide input, which are two different things.
Right.
Yeah.
But that happens with just about
Everything.
every municipal meeting. People don't really come until it's time to complain about something. And that's frustrating for everybody. It's frustrating for the people that come, and it's frustrating for the people that are trying to sit there and give you answers.
I think that's the big thing, is that if you wind up getting this far into the episode that we're in today, is attend the meeting, but go to learn about what's happening. You're not coming to get mad over something without understanding the basis of what's going on. And come to the meetings and bring, your questions, your thoughts, but come to get educated. I think that's the biggest piece.
Well, I can tell you whether it's a council meeting, an HLRA meeting, a MIRIA board meeting, we welcome the input. It's just frustrating when it reaches a point where people come and they're upset about something, and then it's harder for us to give you good answers.
Sure.
Yeah, your local council is your representative. So go get involved, talk to them, speak your mind, and work on a plan together. I think that's really what people forget. They think a lot of times I feel like people feel like their municipality is working against them, when in reality, they're working for the voices that get heard, right? And so you got to stay involved if you want to be. You got to stay involved, or honestly, you just can't get upset because you didn't come, you didn't speak your mind, and now it's happening, and now you want to be upset.
Well, Justin, I think you could speak to that. I mean, we've had some times where you've had questions, and we figured out how to work with your organization or whoever was involved, and hopefully we took care of the problems.
Yeah, I mean, I've
or at least addressed them as best we could.
Them. Yeah, you've addressed them. I've had a lot of questions since moving here back in 2010, and part of the reason why I moved to Horsham Township is because all that it offers. Right, the parks have been here, the trail system, the people, family orientedness. But in my time living here for the last 15 years, I've had my own concerns. When this PFAS thing initially came up way back when, it was a major thing. It was a major concern. A lot of people were worried about what was happening with the water, and Horsham jumped on it, and they brought in the right people to address it, and they worked with the government to make sure that it was taken care of. And I haven't had any worries about it since. And I know a lot of the people that run in the same circles I do, it's not even a topic of conversation any longer.
Well, not funny, but you mentioned the PFAS again. Back in 2014, when that happened, and we got the first test results to let us know what our levels were, we shut our wells down within hours of learning the results and turned the valve and purchased water so that we wouldn't have an issue.
Yeah,
that's how quickly the township responds to those issues.
Yeah. And you're spot on with that. I remember that well, because we were all like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
But it was addressed, and I think it was taken care of properly. But the one thing I've also learned is you're never going to satisfy everybody. So, but I would just challenge you, if you're interested in learning more, all you need to do is go to horsham.org, go into the website, search for information. You could reach out to the council members, reach out to the township. You have us as a resource. Happy to direct anybody to help them find whatever information that it is that they're looking for. Something I want to ask you about, because Horsham is a bit different than other towns.
Okay.
We don't have a mayor here. And I never really understood it until about 6, 7, 8 months ago. Hapro's got a mayor, Ambler's got a mayor. Why the council comparatively to a mayor?
Well,
just a high overview.
I can't tell you why, but a number of years ago, Horsham chose to be what's called a home rule charter. Mm-hmm. Home rule charter is different than other types of organized townships in the sense that you don't have a mayor. We're allowed to make some of our own regulations and react to things a little more quickly than other towns are. On the other hand, on the backside of it, there's certain things that we can't do. There's certain taxes that we can't charge in the background. So, I mean, it continues to put that burden on the taxpayer. And that's why that's such an important issue to us, to try to figure out how do we address these things to keep them low. But the big issue is it's because it's called a home rule charter, and that's what dictates the structure of the township.
Good to know. Little history lesson there.
That's why we're called councilmen rather than supervisors, because that's the naming convention in home rule charter.
Got it. Thanks for that. Is there anything, in closing here, is there anything that you want the general public to know before we wrap up?
Not a lot that we haven't already touched on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just want to reinforce that we really and truly have addressed the water concerns, and it should be a non-issue at this point. I want people to know that whatever happens, no matter how far in the future on the main portion of the base, it will be handled in a way that's safe and appropriate for anybody that will be there and use the property. And I'd like them to know that we finally had a breakthrough, and you're going to start to see some activity on that lower portion of the base. You're going to see some roads come through, and that's going to be a big plus for Horsham Township, so people can stop driving around this giant parcel of property.
I've always been curious as to like what that base looks like from the air. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I know a question that I frequently get is, can people access the base? Will they have the opportunity to drive around the base to see what the property looks like? I don't think so, but
the short answer is no, because the Navy regulates that.
okay.
But who knows, depending on what happens in the future, there could be some opportunity to let people see what it looks like before and after. So even though the answer is no right now, don't rule it out forever.
Great.
You know, I think one of the things to take away as we end this is, you know, if you live in Horsham, I think you should be grateful to have somebody like Bill on your council that's got a true passion for open space, passion for keeping a safe community, and doing things to grow the community's offering in a safe and healthy nature, and continue to help bring more green to the area, which has a tremendous amount as it is. But the key, Bill's passion for open space really speaks loud, and we talked prior to going on today, and I think it's a real blessing to have him represent you. And so if you see him around town, maybe all your views aren't the same, but I really think you should take a chance to talk to him and thank him for what he's doing for the town.
Agreed.
Thank you for that, Ryan. I appreciate that.
You're 100% welcome.
Yeah, you're agreed. I mean, you've done a lot, 26 years of service and continued. I know there's some other council members as well that are doing and chipping in and leveraging the conversation to push things forward. So thank you to them as well. And
well, one thing that I really would like to say, and I thank you for the kudos, both of you, but we have the best staff around, period. And that is the main reason Horsham is where it is today. We have always had the best staff, the best workers, and I can't say enough about the good people that are employed here.
I would agree. I think, from the law enforcement to the people that are inside that administrative building, I've not encountered one person that doesn't care about what's going on in the township. Yep. And I think those that have different viewpoints that have also expressed their frustration, or they don't like what's going on, I think they've been able to come forward. Hopefully you've been able to come forward and also express that and get some answers to some of your frustration, your questions, and what have you, and just know that the door's open. And that's
absolutely.
I think without challenge, there's no progress.
Correct.
I think we need that in light of what's going on in the world today. I think good, healthy conversation is more important than ever.
Yep. And to your point, you can reach the township manager via our website. All of our email addresses are on the website, so you can email any of us, and you will absolutely get a response. I can guarantee that.
This has been another episode of Behind the Sign Pod. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Bill, Ryan as well. We will get back to you on the next episode.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.